Hello, 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 hello. This is episode number 3 of the OverDubs podcast. I am your host, Austin Kadoff. With me today is Mr. Lincoln Larsen. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Austin. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. It started raining, so I'm in a good mood.
Very nice. It actually just got really sunny for us here. It's been
what the
basically
hell,
downpouring
man?
all week, so it's a nice change for me.
Word. So, I think a good place to start, just tell us about yourself. You play trumpet, I know that much. And you have a website. Just give us a rundown.
Sure. Again, I'm Lincoln Larsen. I'm originally from Sioux City, Iowa. I graduated from high school in Hinton, Iowa. I attended, first I went to Iowa Lakes Community College, where I was there for 3 years. Not the typical 2 that most people do. It wasn't because I was dumb and failing classes. It was because I thought practicing trumpet would be a little more important than just going to classes. So I was there for 3 years, and then I transferred to Morningside College, soon to be Morningside University, so I can one-up a lot of people that went to Morningside a long time ago. And I've spent 2 years there now. I'm scheduled to do my student teaching next spring, but it actually sounds like I might be able to do it this fall. So we're going to wait and see, and hopefully that opportunity really opens itself up. So most of the music that I like to play is typically related to jazz. So I love playing in big bands over the summer, but I have had to do one full recital by myself so far, playing strictly classical music. And then I have another recital coming up this fall that's going to be mostly classical, but we're hoping that we can add in a little jazz combo to switch it up a little bit and liven it up. I'm really looking forward to that and for the great opportunities ahead. And I'm very excited to hopefully receive my first teaching paycheck where I can, I'm tired of spending money on school. I'm ready to make some cash.
There you go. So do you know which school you're going to be student teaching at yet, or?
Legally, I am not allowed to say.
Word. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's sort of kind of up in the air right now, just waiting for the last few tiny pieces to fall into place, and then hopefully I'll just be able to get that done.
There we go. So you said you're playing like a lot of jazz stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is it as complicated for you on the theory end as it is for me? Because I'm getting into more chord structure and scales, and it's just like it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's jazz just seems to be one of those things. If the more you learn about it, the less you understand. It's a very nuanced sort of art form that's absolutely beautiful, but it is so hard to get into, and once you're in it, you're just stuck in this endless loop of I got to learn more. So that's what makes it really fun and exciting for me, at least.
What do you can you expand on like the nuances and like?
Yeah, so jazz was originally started as a vocal art form from slaves that were coming into America and were, being slaves. The one thing that they really had left of their previous culture was being able to sing and being able to perform music while they were working in the fields, and that slowly evolved into the blues. This is a very, very, what's the word? Oversimplification of what actually happened. So if you actually want to figure this stuff out, you should definitely go look it up or read a textbook or find somebody smart.
Well, I already learned something. I didn't know it stemmed from the slaves being brought over and that being their kind of music. I knew that jazz was like, I knew that jazz spawned off of blues, but I didn't know that, blues spawned off of that. So.
Yeah. So I mean, it just started as this vocal art form. And then throughout, like the 20s, 30s, and 40s, it really became this instrumental art form, but ultimately, vocalists have won out, and that's been the driving force of music for America today. But just the sort of quality that you're looking for when, or especially when I'm playing jazz, is I want to be able to make everything sound like it would be somebody singing it. And I think that's something that a lot of people sort of miss. It's cool to be able to play 1,000 notes in 3 beats, but I mean, what can you do that actually sounds really beautiful and will sound really hip?
Yeah. I kind of like, I've seen it joked about before, but like jazz, there are no wrong notes. Just
Well,
play literally everything.
Yes.
At least I only say that at least for guitar players, because I know a couple like kind of jazzy guitar players, and they just it feels to me like they're hitting every single note in the scale, and just somehow it sound that's out of place, but it still kind of fits.
Yep, definitely.
Oof. So give us like your history with trumpet. If
All right,
I didn't that came off really.
Yeah,
Really,
it's all good. So I got really, I was really fortunate. I actually started playing trumpet in the 3rd grade. Typically, people start in 5th grade, but I got started early in it because that's when the school that I went to, elementary school, started, and so I began playing trumpet in 3rd grade. I don't want to say I was forced to practice, but that's basically what it was. I had to do at least 15 minutes every single day. And then it got bumped up to a half hour until probably I was in 7th grade, I believe. And then I really just got tired of the trumpet. So I kind of just, did it as sort of a thing that I would do. And then in high school, I was able to do some honor bands and things. I received a 1 on my state solo ensemble award every year. But then, I was at a point where I was like, what the heck do I want to do with my life? And
Right.
it's a really hard thing for a 18-year-old to figure out. But I had a really fantastic music teacher at that time, and she was just able to encourage me and told me that I could really do anything that I wanted to do. And I said I wanted to be a professional trumpet player, and she was like, well, go ahead and do that. So I was like, all right, I will. So I really started practicing again when I was a senior in high school. And then I was looking at where the heck I was going to go for college and things that I was planning on going to a university in Nebraska, but then I got the opportunity to go to the Reggie Shive Iowa Lakes Jazz Camp. That was a fantastic opportunity. That's in Okoboji. It happens every summer. And I really got to hang out with some really cool people, meet some fantastic artists who are just mainly from around here, and they were able to work with me, and I learned so much from them. And I was like, I got to meet the person who put this camp together. And so I became good friends with the person who runs the camp, and she convinced me to come to Iowa Lakes Community College. So again, I came to Iowa Lakes Community College. I had some fantastic teachers here, and then I transferred to Morningside University, and I have a fantastic teacher there. And now I'm really just at the point where the question is do I want to go to grad school, or would I actually like to make some money? And so far, I'm leaning more towards actually making some money, but I definitely hope to go back to grad school and be able to do and be able to get my master's and my doctorate in trumpet performance.
There you go. Christ, I feel like I'm underachieving here now.
Hey, no. Everybody has their own path in life. I have a very, very highly academic one, apparently.
Nothing wrong with that. You want to talk about jazz musicians?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
let's talk about jazz musicians. Who you jamming to?
Oh man, who have I been listening to lately? I don't know. I think I got to pull up my Spotify real quick.
Word.
I've been listening to a lot of stuff lately.
While you're doing that, um I've been listening to like some of these like Herbie Hancock albums from the '60s, and the guy's an insane, like,
oh yeah,
he's insanely talented. I think he's
oh
still
yeah.
alive.
He is. Those albums are so much fun to listen to, just because it's that blending of jazz and rock, and it's just there's just something that's so easy to listen to about it, but if you actually start listening, it's like highly complex. It's just so much fun to get into.
Yeah, we're gonna play the same melody for 5 minutes, but that's not what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time.
So lately, I've really been into this guy called Terry Gibbs. He's a vibraphonist, a jazz vibraphonist. There's not a lot of them that get famous, but he was one of them, and he led a band called the Terry Gibbs Dream Band. And this was basically a reading band. A reading band basically means you get the best musicians together, you put them on a bandstand, and then you all start read the music together. And so he has 6 albums out that are all on Spotify. If you want, you can go look up my playlist. It's called Terry Gibbs Dream Band Volumes 1 through 6. That's all the albums, and they are so much fun to listen to. And it's like it's basically bebop for big band. Everything's fast, everything's high. I mean, it's just there's so much energy going on, and it's so amazing that they were able to capture it on audio, because that's something that I absolutely hate about most albums that I listen to, is that you just don't get that feeling that you get through a live performance. And I think these live albums were just so cool and so much fun to listen to. But also there's this guy named James Blackwell. He has a website, Blackwell's Trumpet Basics. Such a cool dude. I've reached out to him many times and learned a lot from him, but he has transcribed all the lead trumpet parts for these 6 albums. And I've been going through those, and it is so much fun to try to play with some of these trumpet greats, like Al Pacino, and I don't remember who else is on it, but these are the the top lead trumpet players in the LA area during this time, and it is such a worthwhile experience to go through and try to attempt to replicate what the heck they're doing on stage.
Usually, just as a fellow musician, usually that ends with me realizing, hey, I'm not as good as I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. But I really think that's like a huge important part of the learning process, is just realizing that you're not as good as you think you are. It's like this endless cycle of torture where you think you're great, and then you hear somebody else do something, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm not so great. And then it just keeps going in a circle.
There you go. Are you still doing anything with your website, or?
Well, to be honest, not really. I've basically taken like a 6-month break at this point. I am hoping that I can get back into doing my weekly album review and my weekly blog posts. A shout out to LincolnLarsen.com. Please go check it out. I hope that I can get back into it, but I have a lot of things on my plate coming up, and I guess I just really need to make it a priority. So I think this might be my motivation to get back into doing it.
There you go. So what do you, how much time you got, by the way, too? I don't want to.
Dude, I was off at work at noon, so
so you're good to go.
I have literally all night, really.
Sick. You have experience with any other? Actually, let me jump back to this first. What the hell's a vibraphone?
Oh, vibraphone.
You're off on a whole thing.
Do you know what is? Yeah, it's all good. Do you know what a xylophone is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically that, except for it sounds a lot prettier, in my opinion. It's just a different type of keyboarded instrument that percussionists can use, and vibraphones are just what more jazz musicians prefer.
Oh, yeah, no, I just looked up a picture. I've seen these things before.
Yeah, it's all good.
So do you have like experience with any other, like trumpet's your main deal, but do you play for like you what am I looking for? Dabble. You dabble with anything else, sir?
Yeah. So obviously, as part of being a music student, I'm required to be in a whole bunch of ensembles. So I'm also doing concert band music, brass quintet, trumpet ensemble, and then I also have a couple community bands that I'm playing this summer in Sioux City and Emmitsburg. But there's also a really cool group called Rockestra, and sometimes I get to play with them. It mostly depends on if my school schedule works out with them. Um, but most of the time, I prefer to stick to jazz. It's my first love, and I would much rather stick to that. But a paycheck's a paycheck. So if you can find extra money doing something else, you got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Dead air. No, this is all
Yeah.
this dead air. Yeah, that's what editing's for.
Yep, I got you.
I don't know what else you want to talk about.
Um,
I had a very loose kind of. I had a list, and I just managed to blow through it.
all right, that's all good. Here, how about I talk about some of my favorite trumpet players? How about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So I would say for um, for jazz trumpet players, I mean, I really love Lee Morgan. He's an absolutely fantastic trumpet player, and it really uh, he was a part of the Art Blakey Jazz Messengers for a little while. Art Blakey was famous for taking in young jazz musicians and really building them up. And then when they got to a point that they were good, and he thought they were good enough that they could go out on their own, he would literally just fire them and tell them to go. And then he would take in new young players and build them up. Excuse me. And so Lee Morgan was one of these people. And there's a really cool um, there's a concert recording of Lee Morgan playing on YouTube, and it's really cool because in the recordings, as Lee Morgan is soloing, you could hear Art Blakey and the drums just yelling at Lee, play what's in your heart, man. Just keep playing your song, And it's such a cool thing um, to be reminded that the point of this music is that just the point of music in
You
general
want
is
to move
just
people, yeah,
you're
an expression.
exactly, you're trying to express something. And like, I get caught up in the technique of everything because I'm a huge analytical and logical person. Like, I love thinking, oh yeah, it would be really cool if I played the flat nine here, but it's like, my audience doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
They just want to hear something
Like,
really
they
cool
don't
and really
know.
hip. And yeah.
The songs, any of the songs
It's
I've released under the Ketonic name, never once have I had anybody ask me like, hey, that middle note, that's out of key. Like, no, nobody. If from what I've been told about music for several teachers and fellow musicians, if it sounds good, it probably is good.
Yeah, exactly. We tend to overthink everything, and we got to stop that.
And with theory,
So
they say you gotta know the rules so you can break the rules.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the theory is definitely something every musician should know and should study. But there is a point where you just have to let go, and you just really start to focus on what you want something to sound like. And I think Lee Morgan did that absolutely amazingly through his solos. If you Clifford Brown, he was a bebop trumpet player. Probably, I mean, he died when he was only, I believe, 28 years old, if I remember correctly. If he was, I mean, he could technically still be alive today. He would probably be one of the greatest trumpet players of all time. He was just that good at such a young age, and his soloing is just so riveting to listen to and so much fun to listen to. And I mean, there's obviously, we can definitely talk about Wynton Marsalis, you know, the guy who won Grammys in both jazz and classical 2 years in a row. I mean, that's, for somebody to be able to do that, it's absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I mean, more recently, I got to listen to Ryan Kaiser. He's a Sioux City native. He currently plays with Wynton Marsalis out in New York. But Ryan Kaiser, he sometimes comes to Omaha, and I think he has a monthly thing that he does there. And it is just so fascinating listening to him, because everything that he plays sounds like you've heard it before, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so easy to listen to. I mean, he's playing things that are very complex, but he's putting them in a way that, you know, the layman can just so easily interpret what he's saying. And it's so refreshing to listen to that. I have like 4 of his albums, and I'm pretty sure my car is tired, or at least my car's CD player is just worn out from just listening to those so much.
Play something else.
Oh man, there's so many fantastic things, and it's so hard these days to just really just sit down and listen to music, because you know, we have so many distractions.
I agree too, and it's the first episode I recorded with a guy in Detroit. We were talking about that too, and it was more on, like, because he's like really into vinyl, like massively. This dude's whole basement is just, he could open a record shop if he wanted to. But he was talking about that and how people just, they don't have the attention span anymore. They'll listen to, and this is going more into pop music, we'll jump back to jazz in a second, but like, they'll get the single off the album, and then they won't listen to the rest of the album. And, you know, they'll decide like 30 seconds, a minute into it, instead of giving this music a chance, they'll just, I don't like this. Like, no, sit with it, listen to it a few times, and like really listen to these nuances and the way they're, it's not even theory at this point. It's, all right, I'm going to play the piano, but I'm going to hit the lower notes. I'm going to have a softer attack. And then with the right hand, I'm going to, you know, come at it a little harder. And it's just, I'm trying not to swear on this, but like, it's just so mind blowing. Like, if you just sit there and think about it, how many things you can do with different instruments, and it's just different ways of doing. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it's annoying as hell, if I'm allowed to say that. Like, it's just, you know, there's a bajillion options, and to narrow it down to just one is, I mean, you just got to take a chance, and if it doesn't work the first time, you can just slowly refine it. But I mean, it's such a huge process.
Yeah, well, even just on the listening part is what I was getting at with, like, you can you can hear the piano player and how they're attacking the keys, and like that's how I experience music. A lot of people hear it surface level, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at least for me, the way I listen to music is I look for the smaller stuff and the little like unique things here and there that if you don't listen to it like that, you're just not going to notice.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I have, so I play trumpet. Obviously, the only thing that I really, yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? So like I 90% of the time when I listen to something, all I can really hear is the melody. It's kind of annoying, but Actually, it's really annoying because I would like to listen to some other things that are interesting too. But I noticed that the more that I listen to something, I don't really listen for the notes that are happening like underneath the melody. It seems like I'm more listening for the rhythms that are happening underneath the melody, and I think that's such an interesting
So
thing. That's
are you talking like drums, or are you talking more like phrasing and whatnot?
no, I think everything. So like
Everything?
I'm definitely listening to the drums, listening to what beats going on, but I'm more like listening for what the groove is. So like the other instruments that are supporting everything, I'm listening for well, when are they hitting things, or oh, they're playing some sort of like a rhythmic motif that just comes back over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And it just really feels like I don't really care about what's going on harmonically. It's more like I just really care about how the rhythm is driving everything and how it plays with the melody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, everything's got to just kind of lock in together, and you just know when everything's working as it should.
Mm-hmm.
And like I again, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but as as a musician, like it's so impressive when some of these bands, and like especially some of these jazz musicians, like like you have to work very very hard to get your group to sound like that locked in, and everything's just
Mm-hmm.
flowing perfectly in a live setting, no less. It's like, if you're going to the studio, you record it. You can chop things, you can edit things, you can do all this manipulation of the sound, but to do it live and still have that same, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of my another one of my favorite trumpet players. His name is Walter White. He was in Maynard Ferguson's big band, playing with him for a little bit. He released an album last year called BBXL, and he arranged all these tunes, arranged and composed. But the songs that he arranged are so uniquely done. And I would love for everybody listening to go check out this album. It's Walter White, BBXL. It is so interesting how far everything and where he takes everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, as I'm sitting and listening to it, I get so surprised by where he takes everything, because um, that's really what I'm looking for. Like, when with the music I listen to, it's just supposed to be. Um, I want to be surprised. I can probably guess what's going to happen next, but I think that's something that's really, really cool about jazz specifically. Is the point is you're not supposed to playing what your audience would guess is coming next. You're supposed to take them to a new place that they never would have saw coming. And I think his writing and his arranging does that really, really well. I would especially like to say the Blue Rondo a la Turk. Um, so there's this guy named Dave Brubeck, and he was experimenting with odd time signatures. So he was doing a lot of stuff in 5/4, and I believe Blue Rondo a la Turk is in 9/8.
I
So
didn't know either
this
one
is
of
how
those
the
time
story goes. I have
signatures
no
existed.
idea if it's yeah. So I have no idea if this story is true or not, but I've heard this story before. So um, Dave Brubeck went to, I believe, Turkey. I I believe that's right. And he was jamming out with some local musicians there. And their version of the blues is in 9/8 for them. So for them, it goes 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then that just keeps repeating over and over again. And so he was like, "Well, that's cool." And so he took their version of the blues and our version of the blues, and he fused them together. So the opening of this tune starts out with it being in 9/8, And then at the solo section for this tune, it immediately switches to a 12-bar blues. It is probably one of the coolest things that I've ever heard. I would encourage everybody to check out Dave Brubeck's version of it. And then I would say listen to Walter White's version of it, because it is so much fun to listen to. And it's just so surprising where he really goes with everything.
So wait, was the 12 bar section, was that in 9/8 as well, or he just completely changed time signatures?
No, he completely changed time signatures. So when he goes back to the 12-bar blues, it's in regular 4/4.
That's impressive. That'd be kind of hard to pull
Yeah,
off.
it is so much fun to listen to.
An arrangement standpoint, even, it sounds like a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Just so you know, you're quiet again.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I was saying that was impressive just because from an arrangement standpoint, it sounds like a complete nightmare.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially because the original version is just for like this little jazz combo, and all his arrangements on this album are full big bands.
Jeez. So what? I've heard you use the term jazz combo a few times now. What is that, like a different kind of subgenre type thing, or is it more in the arrangement, or what's?
Yeah, so a jazz combo. So you typically have a standard rhythm section, which is you have your bass, piano, and drums. And then you also, for a jazz combo, you typically have 2 or 3 solo instruments. So typically you would have a trombone and not a trombone. Typically you would have a trumpet and a couple saxophones. I've seen some jazz combos use trombones before, but it does not seem to be as prevalent. But then so that's just a jazz combo. It's a small little group. But then a jazz big band typically has 20 people on stage. So you got 5 trumpets, five trombones, 5 saxophones, or 6 really. And then you have a standard rhythm section, and usually you would add a guitar player and maybe vibes if you want to. So just to go from that small of a group to arranging for that large of a group is a lot of work, and would take a lot of attention to detail to make that work.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, are there any links, anything you want to throw out there that you want to promote?
To be honest, not really. I feel like I've plugged just about everything I can.
There you go. All right. Oh, hey, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right. Lincoln Larsen, everyone. See ya.
See ya. Thank you.